Hello everyone, my name is Ned Finn. Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the stream, and welcome to Limbo, cause why not? I felt like playing something a little bit familiar, something that I could do a little bit more in the way of commentary over, because I don't have to think quite as intensely as I have to when I'm solving puzzles and dealing with weird, slightly esoteric combat loops, a la Legend of Grimrock. And I'm thinking about jumping back into Stellaris. I think it's time. I feel Deagle's peer pressure beginning to affect me. That's right, I remember how to play this game. 14 years ago this game came out. All the way back in 2010. Although it feels like it ought to have been earlier than that. But I suppose that 2010, I guess, must have marked kind of the big... the boom time for all them hot, fresh indie games coming out. Or getting like big kind of attention, you know, stuff like this, Meat Boy Fez, although I suppose Fez might have been a little bit later than this. Limbo definitely was kind of like a pioneering force for the kind of artsy 2D platformers. You know, not necessarily style over substance, but style over, you know, super high fidelity graphics, whatever that even looked like back in 2010. Although I suppose it can't have looked that terrible, given the fact that something like Oblivion was, or Skyrim rather, was right around the corner, and Far Cry 3 not far after that, and Far Cry 3 still looks really rather good. It's a very handsome looking game, even to this day. I went through a whole process earlier this morning, or I say this morning, earlier this afternoon. So I have a what is it? A Logitech G710 Plus keyboard. It is like the gaming keyboard that I've had for yonks and yonks. Probably, I mean, I've probably had this keyboard for close to 10 years now. Never had a strong inclination to swap it out, especially because gaming keyboards are so very expensive, and this one has always served me well. You know, I've gone through a number of gaming mice over the years. And this one, what is this? The G502. Very, very nice. My previous mouse, I had bought 2 of them in total, but I don't think that they're making them anymore. Could not tell you off the top of my noggin what that one was called. It had 6 side buttons, which seems kind of excessive in retrospect, because you really only, you know, have but so much headspace for like the 2. But whatever. But yeah, so I've had this keyboard for the longest time, and oh, there we go. I hadn't bothered installing the old Logitech software in the longest time through multiple iterations of my PC. And then I realized that I could probably use the fancy little like G keys off to the side. Oh, there's a delicious egg. Oop. Well, I don't care enough to get the egg, quite frankly. Oop. It occurred to me that I could use those as like shortcut keys, because I'll tell you exactly what spurred this. which is I'm actually normally with my capture software, OBS, I'm just capturing directly from the game window. Whatever, totally fine. With Limbo, it just did not want to capture directly from the window. So instead, I'm having to just capture the entire display, and I think discretion is the better part of valor when it comes to any kind of live streaming, even for an exceedingly small audience. Because you never know. So I've was trying to figure out a way, because if you click away from the main game window, even to, for example, swap between scenes, on OBS. It'll cause the window to minimize itself. Very nearly took my ankles off there. It'll cause the window to minimize itself and reveal whatever was going to be on the desktop, which, in fairness, was just going to be the my Steam store page. But now, instead, I realized, like, hey, I could set up... Well, actually, I was like, can you set up shortcut keys to swap between scenes in OBS? And indeed you can. And I was like, okay, so I'll do something kind of obscure, something that I'm not going to hit by accident. So it's like Control-Shift, F1, F2, F3 to swap between the three different scenes, which is literally just the stream opener, the main stream capture, and then the stream close. And I realized, hey, it would be kind of nice to be able to bind those to the little, like, Logitech keys off at the side that by default are just like 1, 2, 3, or 1 through 6, I suppose. And obviously this is the sort of thing that is you kind of handle more directly by having one of those fancy schmancy stream decks. But I ain't got it like that, fam. But it occurred to me that if I were to go ahead and reinstall the old software, I guess the Logitech gaming software is what it's called, I could possibly get that working. And lo and behold, with a single button click, and without having to navigate away from the window, I can swap between my scenes in OBS, which is a super minor convenience. Certainly not the sort of thing that, with an audience of 82 subscribers, I think. I'm currently yammering to precisely nobody, as it should be. I maintain no illusions about that. Obviously not worth it for, getting one of those pieces of streaming hardware. But using my existing hardware to just be able to swap back and forth between between my different scenes in OBS, absolutely. And this sort of thing is, I think, important just to kind of better familiarize oneself with one's tools and get as much out of them as possible, I suppose. Most unfortunate. I know what I'm doing. I've played this game before. I've beaten this game probably half a dozen times at this point. Probably gone through from beginning to end. But never mistake familiarity with competence. Just because I know what dangers are coming doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to actually deal with them. That would be a heck of a stream one day, because I know that there's an achievement for completing the entire game start to finish with only like 5 deaths, I think. That would be a heck of a stream to do, where I just sit down and I'm like, okay, I am going to play this game all the way through. I'm going to play this game for as long as it takes to get that achievement. That would be... I'm not like a challenge channel, you know. I'm a do kind of whatever the fuck I want to do sort of channel. To my, no doubt, immense detriment. But on the other side, do I want to worry that much about doing some kind of big fancy challenge on a stream that might get conservatively or not even conservative, liberally 50 views, maybe, like on the very high end? No, I don't think so. Although I did upload a Morrowind short today, just because I haven't put out a short recently. And when last I checked, 0 views. Which is precisely why, you know, when I was talking to Luffy the other day in chat, you know, I think I'm going to spare myself an immense amount of frustration if I'm not, like, hyper fixated on like getting loads of views, loads of subscribers, all that jazz. Like, if I can, great. You know, it is a validation of my efforts at attempting to do something entertaining, something that people find worth watching. But if my goals are more personal and less kind of numerically quantifiable, you know, even my at the beginning of this year, I was like, hey, I want to get my channel up to 100 subscribers. Even that might be setting myself up for disappointment. I will fully acknowledge that. But I completely lost my train of thought. I don't know. I cannot remember if there was another point that I was trying to make. I was talking about... I said something to get me off on that jag about maintaining more personal goals. Oh, well. Oh, yeah. The, you know, I did the short. You know, I really... I need to find a good way to do... like subtitle generation, and I don't know if there is like a good free way to do that without just having to kind of brute force it, you know, through good old-fashioned editing. I mean, I think I've got decent skills as an editor on like a very basic shot-to-shot aspect, but like there is so much, like DaVinci Resolve is a really good, really powerful free tool. I am certain that there are tons and tons of capabilities of that software that I'm just completely ignorant of, and like lots of tools that I'm just completely ignorant of, that I'm just kind of learning slowly over time. And part of that is because, you know, since I am not overly worried about like rapid expansion, like, oh, I gotta get, you know, X amount of content, it's gotta look X amount polished, yada yada yada. You know, there is, on the flip side, not this huge impetus to develop those skills super quickly. But, you know, it is what it is. And honestly, the streaming is, I think, more of a way of adding kind of an extra dimension of meaning to the gaming that I'm already doing. You know, more so than anything else. There are a couple of things that I'm kind of interested in doing. What's up, Deagle? I was just thinking about you and your attempt at peer pressuring me into some more Stellaris, which might be coming as early as this evening. So keep an eye out for that. But what's going on, man? How's things in Portugal? How's your day going? Yeah, there's a couple different games that I'm sifting around with. Horizon Zero Dawn has come to mind. Oh, I love this. This guy has an entire, like, scary organ embedded in his body, because when you jump on him, he does this. I always like the big, scary sound trigger. So love that YouTube only warns me. Thanks, YouTube, for the early one. In fairness, I do not schedule these streams far ahead. I'm like, okay, schedule the stream, start streaming, bada bing, bada boom. So, like, you are good, my guy. Oh, that's right, I need to grab the body. Asshole throwing rocks at me. But yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn has occurred to me. You know, and the opportunity of doing, like, a whole spiel of, like, man, I've been playing too many of these gosh darn indie games. Balatro, Legend of Grimrock, Sir, You Are Being Hunted, Cultist Simulator. What even is that? A game with reading? No, thank you. And yet here I am playing one of the indie games. But yeah, Horizon has occurred to me. Subnautica is on the list. But honestly, I think the next thing that I play might just be more Stellaris. And that's on you, Deagle. Oh, damn it. I forgot which one it was. Could do without the construction noise next door. Sleep never felt so good. My guy, I feel that. I feel that in my bones. My wife is away for a... Oh, Jesus. Is away for a couple of evenings here. And let's be very clear. I love my wife dearly. She is fabulous. I very much want to have her beside me every night before I go to sleep. However, she is a bit more of a light sleeper. Well, I wouldn't even say a lighter sleeper than I am, but she is a light sleeper, and I tend to be a little bit restless after I've, like, kind of woken up first thing in the morning. Like, I'll kind of stir at about, like, 6:15 or so, 6:30, something like that. Got a very strong internal clock for that sort of thing. And because if I'm kind of stirring around in bed, that is much more likely to wake her up. And if she wakes up too late into the morning, she will just end up staying up even if she needs more sleep. And so, I will usually kind of get up, grab my phone, and head out to the living room. Sometimes I'll get a little, like, an extra, 30, 40, maybe an hour of sleep, or I'll just start my morning. Play a little on my Steam Deck, get my coffee, that sort of thing. But this morning, instead, I was able to just stay in bed, and I slept in until, like, 8. It was a good time to be had by all. So I I understand that, oh, I got some good sleep feel. Now, Daniel, you said it's your day off, and I know that you've mentioned work before. Just out of curiosity, what do you do, my guy? What lets Deagle keep the lights on? But yeah, Stellaris is probably going to be something I do as early as this evening. I'm trying to think of what I want to do for dinner and do with dinner. For dinner, I'm probably just going to go hobo style out into the wide world in my pajama pants and get myself, like, something that I can pop in the microwave really easily. I don't want to... I'm not going to be a fancy gentleman, but I am trying to figure out what I'm going to watch. You know, I finished Hannibal. That was the thing that I was most recently binging. The wife and I are watching The Bear together. The series with Jeremy Allen White. So I am not going to be... I'm not going to get ahead of her on that. So I'm not sure. Maybe I might try out Star Wars Acolyte, which I know is like getting shat on by the sorts of people who typically shit on modern Star Wars, but I think they tend to be kind of a bunch of fucking nitpicking chuds more often than not. Lifeguard, I see tourists make stupid decisions when it comes to swimming in the ocean, which is fun. Sarcasm. Sure. But yeah, man, Lifeguard, that's nifty. I suppose it is the right season for it. Although I would imagine it remains a bit warmer longer down in Portugal. I have only but the... I barely have a geographical grasp as to where Portugal even is in the grand scheme of things, besides abutted to Spain. But I guess I put it into a kind of vaguely, I don't know, Mediterranean category seems a little bit broad, or a little bit off target, I suppose. But me personally, I'm very much ready for this interminable heat to die off. I'm over it. I'm ready for cool weather again. But we still have like August to get through. Like maybe it'll start cooling down again in September. You know, it has been a summer of record-breaking heat, as they always tend to be, in fairness. But you know, in order for those records to keep getting broken, it does indeed need to keep getting hotter, and I definitely feel that. I stuck my head out once this morning, or this afternoon, to put out some piece of trash out in front of the door to take down to the dumpster later, and I'm like, ooh, man, it is steamy out there. Not a fan. You know, obviously, like, this sort of thing is like well past into nostalgia at this point, but like there is like a very kind of pleasant association in my mind of the weather starting to get cooler and going back to school, and I think deep down my kind of deeply ADHD and diagnosably depressed brain always kind of... There was a fly, and it very nearly got me drowned. Always kind of relished the kind of structure that school would introduce. It's warm in here. Our most recent winter felt like a normal summer. So, yeah, I imagine human island in the sun for 8 hours a day. Switch jobs with me, please. Yeah, my guy, I have kind of the opposite experience because day in, day out, my day-to-day is 8 hours in what is essentially an open-air refrigerator. I work in. I'm sure I've mentioned this on the streamer on the channel before. I am a retail meat cutter, not a butcher technically, because I can't like whole butcher an animal. You know, we get vacuum sealed primals in, and then we'll process them down into your various cuts of steak and all that jazz. And obviously you got to keep shit fresh. So I am, in the kind of the main area of the department is, I would say in the kind of mid 40s to low 50s. And then check the temperature for this week. We use Fahrenheit over here. This is as Donald Glover once said, this is America. I mean, you can give me a Celsius or centigrade, as may be the case, temperature readout, but it will mean fleetingly little to me. I know that 0 is freezing, and 100 is boiling, and beyond that, I'm pretty ignorant. But yeah, kind of mid 40s to low 50s in the main department, and then technically our coolers are always supposed to be kept at like 32. They're probably closer to something like 35, just because we're in and out of them so often. We're supposed to be kept like right at or just above freezing. I've my current store I've been at for less than a year. It's been, gosh, I don't even. That's right. I don't remember how this works. Current store I've probably been at for like 4 months because I got swapped over from the store that I'd been at originally. Like right at the end of February into March. I suppose I didn't make the move officially until March because I got told literally the day before I went in on a scheduled vacation, because I was getting married. And I was there for kind of almost off and on, but more or less for like 2.5 months or so. So it really might have only been like 3 months or so that I've been at this current store. So I can't really speak to what it's like in the winter, but back at my original store, it would get so cold, especially up towards like the top of the cooler, like the top shelves, because that's where the fans are. That's where you're getting the most cooler, and obviously like warm air rises, but you're most getting kind of the direct cool air from the fans up towards the top. Our packages of these big vacuum sealed meat primals would be frozen. Like you would have to thaw them, which is really not something you're supposed to do. Like sometimes like thaw stuff in like cool running water, which you're definitely not supposed to do. But it's like, we cannot wait for this stuff to cool or to thaw out in the cooler open air. for 12 hours, you know, sealed in the in their packaging. Stuff needs to get cut. But you know, and it's not even something like, you know, there's seafood, for instance. Seafood, a lot of seafood comes in frozen because it's coming in from all over the world. Real feel 30 degrees, aka 86. I mean, don't get me wrong, 86 is warm, but let's see here. See how fucking hot it is over in my neck of the woods. Okay, yeah, so 85. So yeah. Ooh. I don't know. Like, what is our UV right now? Air quality. UV index is only 3 over here. So, like, you know what? I'll bet, and this is, like, real speculation, but I will bet that the air is drier over there, yeah? So there's just not that same kind of, you know, kind of the humidity protecting against the ultraviolet as it might be around here. Because I like I said, I stuck my head out briefly earlier and it was freaking muggy. But yeah, like a lot of seafood needs to be thawed out before you can put it out. But there's like procedure for that. You cut a little slit in the packaging, set it on a tray on the seafood rack, and then you let it sit overnight in the cooler, and it'll thaw out. You do that with fish, you do that with shrimp, all sorts of stuff. Same thing with frozen wings as well. You know, we do seasoned wings as like a value-added item, so those come in frozen, we thaw them out. But there's no thawing procedure for red meat because it's not supposed to be frozen. You know, it comes into us vacuum sealed but fresh. And, you know, we need to be able to honestly tell customers, like, yes, this stuff comes into us fresh. It has not been frozen. It is safe to freeze. Somewhat humid. It traps in the heat. I guess I just don't know how humidity impacts the UV index. So I do not know. Couldn't tell ya. I'm just a humble meat man. Here's the thing. Arguably overeducated, but not overqualified. Because I've got no degree to speak of, which is very much my own, you know. I'm not going to entirely say my own fault. Oh, no. I did the thing wrong. Goodbye, cruel world. Goodbye, cruel head. You know, but it is certainly born out of my own set of issues, my lack of a proper degree outside of, you know, like I have my high school diploma. You know, I am not completely uncredentialed. Oh, Jesus. Oh, no. Oh, my bones. Oh, yeah. Nope. I gotta be in the air before it reaches the end of its little mark there, huh? You know, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to completely get through the game. Gosh, I very nearly just walked off the edge of this thing. back to the center, and yep. You know, this is the kind of game that really, really speaks to the significance of stylization, you know? Because Limbo will never not look good. It will permanently look great, because it is not going for a high-fidelity thing. Like, you know, I still think something like, again, mentioned earlier in the stream, Far Cry 3 still looks really, really good. Curious and went to check out what the highest temp on record was. It was 102. Oh, over in Portugal, yeah. No kidding. Gosh, there is nothing. That's right. I gotta grab a box. There is nothing quite so miserable as having to to sit down and put your hands on that hot steering wheel after your car has been baking out in the sun for 9 hours. I am curious, just out of curiosity. Which side do y'all have your wheels on? Is that are you guys left hand or left hand side or right hand side over there in Portugal? I would imagine it's on the. I know that Britain is on the right, or on the left rather. They drive on the right side of the road. They have their steering wheels on the left side. Oh, that's not surprising. Or I would not be surprised about that, rather. But yeah, I know England has their steering wheels on the left, and they drive on the right side of the road, which is doubly opposite of how we do things over in the States. With the exception of, like, postal workers. The like, official post office vehicles have their windows on the left, or their steering wheels on the left side, because that is where that's for access to the mailboxes. Eagle says, we ain't British, that's all I'm saying. So I take it you guys do things on the American model. Which is encouraging, you know. Perhaps if I ever need to flee to Europe, I will at least have an easy time adapting to the roads. Or to the driving style. Not necessarily the roads, though, goodness. This was years back. My dad, my brother, and my sister and I went on a trip to Italy. Partially because my dad's, well, I suppose my dad's mom had passed several years back, and my dad's father had passed recently, which, you know, left a little bit of inheritance for my dad and his brothers, as well as, like, property. You know, that they had a house, cars, a boat. Although I don't know if any of the vehicles were still in their possession at the time, because, you know, weren't doing a lot of recreational vehicle use at that point. But something my grandparents had loved to do was travel, and so to honor that tradition within the family, my dad opted to take us on a trip to Italy. And let me tell you, like, as someone for whom, you know, like, all of the most major cities in America kind of, you know, have certainly been designed with the car in mind. Obviously, you know, like New York and Washington, D.C., these are cities that predate, you know, the automobile, but it is still very much a thing of, this is just not going to work. It is very much a thing of, like, these are cities that have, you know, kind of grown into having a lot of traffic. Damn it. Okay, what am I... That's right. Okay, I know what I'm doing wrong now. But meanwhile, like, you go to, like Rome, and you're like, oh, wow. This is a city that was not designed for cars. This is barely designed for horses. You know, so it is kind of the taxi driving that we saw in like Rome and Florence is just crazy, because, like, you know, these are streets that were just not made with cars in mind. You know, it reminded me of seeing, like, a school of fish just kind of swimming around. So don't piss off taxi drivers if you wish to live. Well, I feel like that's fairly universal reality. Don't piss off the cabbies. You know, not necessarily, like, relating to taxis, but, like, the things I would do to, like, live in a city, where you don't need to own a car to get around, like, because there are taxis and buses and trams and trains and all that stuff. You know, you hear, I actually went on a couple of dates with someone who had come here from, like, you know, northeastern U.S., and, like, around, like, Delaware and I think New York, that sort of thing. Never learned to drive until they had come to my neck of the woods, which is, as I've mentioned before, the heart of North Carolina. Which, like, yeah, if you don't have like a personal vehicle, man, you're gonna have a rough time. Like, this is a part of the country that is just kind of designed with personal vehicle ownership in mind, which, like, isn't great. You know, I mean, personal vehicles, you know, obviously introduce a tremendous amount of, you know, carbon emissions, versus, you know, even, like, carbon emitting trains are gonna be, you know, more, you know, transportation efficient than a bunch of individual cars. Same thing with buses, to say nothing of, like, electric trams, electric trains. You know, I think it'd be very neat to have to live in a place where you don't gotta drive everywhere. Oh no, that's still electrified. I remember this puzzle always kind of giving me a bit of difficulty. Remember when Uber was starting? Here, the cab drivers got violent if they ever suspected you to be an Uber driver. Cars were destroyed, few broken bones. It was wild. Calmed down a bit since then. Well, yeah, and it's because, you know, companies like Uber have had to really increase their prices because they didn't like succeed in completely driving the taxi cabs. Well, I mean, the plan was always to increase prices, but hopefully by like completely eliminating the competition before that, because that's how these things work. You know, I mean, that is kind of the success. That's the success model of something like Amazon, which was not profitable for the longest time, but now that it has become the default kind of platform for online commerce, you know, it can kind of do what it wants. And now, you know, it can do like the Amazon Choice stuff. You know, it's these business practices are all kind of, you know, kind of it is what it is. You know, I can speak as someone who has done the gig work thing a little bit. You know, I did, you know, 2 delivery apps. Oh geez. Oh no. I honestly did not think that I was going to make that. That's kind of impressive. I did Postmates and DoorDash. Principally DoorDash. Once... once that became an option for me, because I meant to drop, not jump. DoorDash is a little bit more user-friendly from like the delivery driver side of things. People are encouraged to pre-tip, so you typically have a better idea of what your pay is going to be before you make a delivery. Which, like, kind of invalidates, like, the idea of the traditional idea of tipping. Like, oh, you know, you tip for good service, not for, you know, what you expect the service to be. But it, from the delivery driver side of things, it is hugely helpful in kind of just determining like what jobs you do and don't take. Here on the island, we don't really have many Uber drivers except for food delivery or the other kinds of delivery, Uber Eats, for example. Yeah, I get that. I will say, as someone who did the like I said, who did the delivery driver thing for a while. Like, having a traditional job does sometimes suck, and, like, I sympathize with people who need it as, you know, for whom that might be their only option, or they need it as a supplemental source of income. That I can certainly sympathize with, but if a more traditional job is available as an option, as something that will pay the bills, will allow you to live, you know, if not comfortably, but will at least give you the means of basic survival, like, that is going to be preferable. Like, I came to really loathe delivery driving by the end, because it's monotonous, it's lonely, it just kind of sucks. Like, I was not a fan, especially by the end. You know, a point that I make often is I do not hate what I currently do. For lack of a less glib way of putting it, the meat of the job, I quite enjoy. I like cutting meat. There is, you know, I would not describe it as an art, but there is something artful about doing something that you're good at, you know, and doing it efficiently and well, and, you know, the product coming out looking nice. Oh, Jesus. All that work, and I completely fumbled it. But, you know, there are things not necessarily about my job that I dislike, strongly dislike, but there are frustrations, as there are with anything in life. You know, I have my moments where I'm like, I do not want to be here. I would so much rather be at home, like, even more than usual. Like, I just be, like, this past week, I worked 8 days in a row. Very unpleasant way to do things. And by the, kind of the midway point of that 8th day, like, I was texting my wife, like, I am not okay. I really want to be home. But the job itself, oh, sheesh. The job itself I don't hate. The last 3 months or so of doing DoorDash, I came to fucking hate it. I was just like, you know, that first, you know, sitting in my car in the parking lot of our apartment complex, waiting for that first delivery to roll in, and it's just like, I fucking hate this. Like, and, you know, by that point, I'd already had, you know, 7 years of experience in grocery retail. I knew what it was to have a more traditional job. You know, there is really something to be said for having a set wage, you know, having a set income. You know, I'm going to work this number of hours, I am going to get this much pay. Having coworkers, having, you know, management to bring issues to, that's not a fucking helpline. You know, it you know, there's two kind of insights that I had to this process. You know, first of all, you know, that very good Dan Olson video. Line goes up. His kind of really systematic analysis of the failures of cryptocurrencies and specifically NFTs. I almost said ETFs, but that's a different financial instrument. But the NFTs, where he talks about like, hey, just because cryptocurrencies and NFTs are new does not mean that they're better. We replace bad systems with worse ones all the time. Says we replaced a bad system of work and bosses with a worse system of gig jobs and on-demand labor. And it's like, man, that is 100% the case. Like, it is not a good system. And, like, maybe it could be a good system. You know? But it sure fucking ain't right now. I completely flubbed that. Needs to go in a completely different way. And the other insight that I had was there was like a YouTube ad, and it's an ad that I saw a couple of times for like the work side of DoorDash, like not a consumer facing ad, but an ad for, you know, the prospect of working for DoorDash. I do not know why I keep doing this. I need to actually time the lever pull. But the like the tagline of the ad was something along the lines of like it's more than just a job, or something to that effect. Basically, like doing something to say that that driving for DoorDash ain't a job like what you fucking like what you would think of it as being, and it's not. It's not a job. You know, you can treat it like a job. You can do it in place of a job as far as a source of income, but it's not a freaking job. It's just work. It is opt-in labor, and it's terrible. It's a bad way of doing things. So if, like, I would say if you have a car that has very good mileage and is not too expensive to maintain, it's not a bad source for supplemental income. If it's something you want to do, you know, maybe 10 hours a week, I think that's okay. You know, make between $80 to $120 off of it every week. I think that's an okay way of doing things, but trying to do it as your sole source of income is just miserable. And, like, there are appealing aspects to it. You know, there is something very appealing about being able to set your own hours, you know. If you want to work, you can. If you're just not up for it, you don't have to. But my goodness. Like, none of the income is pre-taxed. You know, you don't have coworkers. It's there's a bunch of reasons why it's just it wasn't for me. And maybe there are other folks out there who have kind of gamed the system much better than I could. Good God, I practically landed on my ass on that thing. Didn't quite get that one right, huh? I don't know. I've definitely been just like rambling here. I hope that I've not completely alienated my one audience member there, Deagle. Hey, I'll make up for it by streaming Stellaris later, huh? How does that sound? Like gosh, I mean it's getting quite kind of, you know, into the early evening. I don't precisely... How long have I been streaming for? That's a good question. And I don't want to upset my streaming setup, so I'm just going to pull it up on the frickin' app on my phone. Let's see here. View Chanel. When watching. How long have I been doing this for? Oh, wow. So it's like... It's really not been that long. I guess because I started at... What? 4:15? Something like that? I don't know. Starting the stream this late in the evening with ambitions of doing another stream later might have been a bit... Well, ambitious, I suppose. And a box falls. Oop. Oh, that's right. We gotta pop around the other way. That makes more sense. Fanatic Pacifist Rat of Stellaris. Can I say sorry in advance? No, motherfucker. You can watch in awe as I pull it off beautifully. I am going to basically be doing a hyper-accelerated version, essentially, of what I did in the previous stream of, hey, my plan is to fuck off to my corner of the galaxy and just build mega structures. My government, because I put together the government and the new species. I did parrots. I went with the avian species portrait that looks like a parrot in a spacesuit. So the mighty Paratopian Empire is going to be what I go with this time round. I've got the shattered... You know, improved adaptability might not be a bad way of going. But it's possible that I've already made my bed, as it were. I'm doing the... I did go Fanatic Pacifist. Okay, I needed to remind myself how this works. God damn it. But yeah, a Fanatic Pacifist and Materialist. Oligarchic empire structure. What else did I do? Natural engineers. And intelligent. I gave them the unruly trait for a couple of other benefits that I wanted to acquire. And no, they're not slow breeders. I can maintain population. It's not... Ish no big deal. Oh, that's right. I remember how this works. I definitely should have jumped over that, huh? Oh, but yeah, I did the Shattered Ring origin. So, like, once the technology is available, I have a very good chance of getting, like, the Mega Engineering, Galactic Wonders, all that good stuff. Yeah, I guess it's Mega Engineering that's, like, the big tech that needs to be gotten. And that is what I am currently... That's what we will be aiming for. You know, and who needs to be out there starting wars? I do not remember how much. I know that there's not much more game left here. I know there's not. But at the same time, I want to give myself and my voice, good God, a little bit of a break. Before jumping into another stream at what? 8, maybe? And even then, it'll only be like an hour-long stream? I don't know. A 2-hour break could be enough. Go out, get myself food, take in an episode of, like, Star Wars Acolyte, or maybe another episode of Good Omens. Because it'd be kind of neat to completely... run through the game before the end of the stream. I've only been streaming for, like, maybe a little over an hour. Oh, shishki kablishki. Or, I could end the stream now, give myself a well-deserved break, and swing back around this evening in about 2.5 hours for some Stellaris. That is 8 o'clock Eastern Time, for those who need the reference. Looking at you, Mr. Portugal. Folks, thank you all very much for watching. I am Ned Finn, and until next time, goodbye forever.